adjust my sound as usual. It is Tuesday. We are in the last month of the year, but a lot happens during this time. So yes, December, and all of the December chaos, all of the celebrations and holidays and changes in routine. How to survive, that's a big part of it. How to be proactive about all of these changes, because they are going to happen. It's just a natural part of December. So we're going to talk about tonight surviving, dealing with all of those changes. A couple of tips to make it through the month of December. And they're really, tips to keep in mind whenever you have a month or a couple of weeks of things that will be going on in your life. So yes. So December, and the chaos. So once again, there's so many things that happen in the month of December between school and outside of school. And as an autism parent, some of the things we have control over. So a big part of trying to make it through December is really trying to be as proactive as you possibly can. Planning ahead, thinking ahead, thinking about what's coming up, and not just kind of going with the flow. Just because, you may be a laid back, go with the flow during the holidays, keep in mind, your child, that your loved one that's on the spectrum, that may not be the case for them. They're going to need that back and forth. They're going to need the structure of what's going to happen. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips quickly. And once again, if you see me looking, I just try to make sure I have some notes so I won't forget what I want to talk about. So one of the things in thinking about December and all of the things that can happen during the month of December, you want to create a calendar. If you don't have a calendar in place in your home, in a central location, well, let me just say this. If you don't have a calendar, this is probably a moment where you want to just get a calendar for the month of December. You don't have to get a calendar for all of the other months if that's okay with you, but December just involves, hey Yoki, December really and truly involves so many changes that we really want to make sure we get a schedule and a calendar. So in getting that calendar, depending on the cognitive level of your loved one on the spectrum, you need to write out different events that are going to happen. If they're going to be events at school, if they're going to be events that your family participates in, you want to put them on a calendar so that they can see when these different things are going to happen. Now, depending on their intellectual level, for some, you may be able to just write the words. But for others, you may need to include a picture about that event that's going to happen. So keep in mind, one of the tips, sorry, my glasses are, nah, here it is. And for those of you that wonder, I really do need my glasses to see. It's not just a fashion statement. I really do need them to see the computer screen. Okay. So one of the things for sure, one of the tips right off the bat is make a schedule. Make a schedule on the calendar. So even if you don't want to get a full calendar, it's the end of the year, print off a page for December and include all of the events that are going to happen at school and the events that your family is going to participate in. Why? Those things may change. That schedule that's going to change, at least they have an idea of what's going to change. And that's a big part of things. Remember, it's all about trying to be proactive. The next thing, because so much changes with December, I know during the school day, when I say so much changes, it's so many different events and celebrations, and the schedule changes at school. The lunchtime may change. People that are coming into their classroom may change. All of those things you can't control. That's what happens in December in school buildings, and I know it happens a lot in elementary school buildings. However, what you do have control over needs to stay consistent. So that nighttime routine, it needs to stay consistent. That means whatever time bath time is, it needs to stay consistent. Whatever time you all have been eating dinner, it needs to stay consistent. What you can't control needs to stay consistent in order for them to feel some level of predictability. Because what happens at school can't be stopped. But what you do at home, as much as you can, stick to whatever your nighttime routine is. That's the best thing. Now, the next thing, we talked about sensory overload. Oh, and thank you. Yes. Early release days. Yes, that is a big change. And depending on the school system you're in, you may have one early release day. You may have more than one early release day. So it is really and truly important that you put those dates on a calendar. I don't know why my glasses want to give me a hard time tonight. It is so important that you put those early release days, because that's going to totally change the schedule for that day. Their lunch schedule is going to, everything changes about that day with early release. So on that calendar, include early release days. And once again, depending on your system, it could be one early release day in December right before the break, or it could be two. So you want to include that, and those days leading up to it, you want to make sure that you talk to your child about it. Talk to your child that's on the spectrum and let them know, hey, for the next 2 days, you're going to eat lunch earlier at school, and you're going to come home a little earlier on the school bus. So those are things we want to make sure we talk about, and we put on that calendar we talked about at the beginning. So get your calendar. Rather, the person's, it doesn't matter if the person's intellectual ability, they're not able to read, use some pics, use some icons, use some pictures to let them know different events that are going to happen, and keep that somewhere they can see what's going to happen and talk about those changes. Keep, once again, what you can keep in place, keep in place. Now, the next thing, sensory. I talked about sensory overload and sensory, basically a sensory profile. Knowing your child, knowing your loved one that's on the spectrum and their sensory needs. Why is that important? During the holidays, simply going into a store, there could be more lights than they've had before. The music could be really loud because they're playing festive music. The layout of the store that they're so used to may not be the same layout, simply because it's the holidays and they have extra things out and everything. So you want to make sure that you know your loved one's sensory needs so that you are ready. Basically, you want to stay ready. Stay ready with a kit. Stay ready with, rather, you need shades if it may be super bright and the shades are going to block, the flashing lights. Then maybe they need their headphones. You need to make sure you stay ready. Just because a store typically has not caused a problem for them, if you know they have some sensory, needs when it comes to loud sounds and lights, keep in mind, stores have changed their layout, their setup, the lights, the music, everything changes for the holidays. So stay ready. And you need to stay ready by knowing your loved one's sensory needs, knowing what things are possible triggers for them, and then making sure you're ready to support them if something does happen. If you get to that store, you really need to go into this store, and you can see when you get there, they have all of these lights, and that lights are a trigger. But you also know that if you put your loved one on a pair of shades, they're going to be okay. You've got to be prepared with the shades. So keep that in mind. So schedule. You need a schedule. You need to see the schedule. Month of December, print out one. You don't have to go buy a whole 12 months. We're at the end of the year. But I strongly encourage December, you need to print out the month and allow them to see what changes are going to happen. Depending on their level, pictures or words. That's the first thing. The next thing, whatever routines you can keep the same, keep them the same. Nighttime routine, dinner time routine. If they see a therapist, all of those things, as much as you can keep the same, keep it the same. One of the things to remember too when you're thinking about that calendar, early release days, know what's going to happen at school so that you can have a conversation as well about what may change that day at school. Now, the next thing is depending on that loved one's intellectual ability, you want to talk about with different events what the expectations are. Kind of let them know what's going to happen. So if you're going to someone's house for a family get together for December, you may want to talk to them about it's going to be a lot of people here. There may be several conversations going on at once. The TV may be louder. There may be music playing. Hey, Tiff, all of those different things are things we want to make sure that we talk to that loved one that's on the spectrum about before we actually go to the event. We don't want to just go to the event and think, oh, you know what, they're going to be okay. It's going to be family around. And this is something that could be a trigger for them. So you really and truly want to make sure that you talk to them about what the event involves. Like right now, there are going to be a lot of concerts at schools. Maybe you're going to take them to a play. Maybe you're going to take them ice skating. Whatever the case may be, you need to talk about what the event, is going to involve and what the expectations are. Some things they may need to, get themselves ready for. And also remember, you need to be ready for anything that could possibly be a sensory trigger. So a couple of things here we've talked about to make sure we are ready. Christmas parties, yes. So many people are having these Christmas parties. December is just a month of, we love it, but it's a love of chaos. But for those individuals that do not like chaos, December could be the month that they just hate to see coming. And we can't stop time. But if we can help our loved ones that are on the spectrum with some things, it's going to help them get through this season, and maybe we can change how they feel about the season moving forward. But yes, holiday parties, it could be several. Your house could be the home that's hosting the party. You just want to make sure you talk about what the expectations are. If it's a pajama party for, that celebration for Christmas with a group, talk to them and let them know if they're on the spectrum. And keep in mind, when I say on the spectrum has levels. So just because someone is a level 1 does not mean you don't want to still talk about if it's going to be a pajama party, that we're all going to be in our pajamas. We're going to put on our pajamas as soon as we get there, or maybe we're going to arrive in our pajamas. Those are things to talk about because that's a break from the norm. And whenever we're breaking from the norm, we want to make sure we talk about it and prepare our loved ones that are on the spectrum for those changes. Now, even if right now during the month of December, your loved one seems to be okay and everything seems to be going smooth and your thoughts are, oh, we never have any problems during, December, you still want to keep in your schedule whatever sensory breaks you typically give them. So if you normally give them time when they get home at the end of the day to get on the computer, you really need to make sure you find that time for them to still be able to get on that computer if that's their sensory break. If they just want to sit somewhere in a quiet space, you want to make sure that even though they're things don't disrupt them during December. In the past, things have been great, but they normally have their sensory breaks. So we want to make sure we're not taking away those sensory breaks during this December month because the schedule gets busy. Anytime we can keep them in place, we need to keep those sensory breaks in place because sensory breaks are just like anything else. We all need a moment that allows us to kind of resettle ourselves, and sit still. And, we all talk about things we do. But we're going, and your thought is, what, I'm just so happy I can sit, down right now on the couch for a moment and just unwind before getting going with the next event. You're giving yourself a break. You need to keep in mind, your loved one still needs their sensory breaks that they normally have before all of the December chaos gets going. Now, another thing to keep in mind, we're thinking about those holiday parties, right? You could be the host, the party at school, going to a party or event, food accommodations. If you know your loved one has accommodations when it comes to food, you should prepare to probably have those items with you, or if you've talked to the person that's hosting the event to see if they're willing to provide those accommodations. But the main thing is you want to make sure if they need food accommodations, if your child will only eat chicken nuggets, that's fine. But if the holiday party at school, they're going to have pizza, you can see where this can be a problem. So you want to make sure that you are thinking about what kind of food is going to be prepared at this event, and think about your loved one and their sensory needs, and not just, assume, oh, everybody knows that he or she will only eat this, or, they don't like their food to touch. Don't make any assumptions. I always say, do not make any assumptions when you're thinking about other people. Things stay in the foresight of your mind with your loved one because you live day to day. But for others, things may leave their mind. It's not that they intentionally don't care. It's that it may leave their mind because that's not their day to day. So right now, when it comes to Kendall, hey, Auntie Gladys, day to day, I'm always thinking. We're thinking ahead as much as we possibly can and planning ahead as much as we possibly can. We're trying to be, as proactive as possible, but keep in mind, you can still plan and things can still fall apart. But why, sit back and just wait for things to fall apart? Try to prepare for this December chaos as much as you possibly can. Now, one of the things as well, we want to make sure in these settings, and this is something, you may have this signal with your friend. Hey, sister. You may have this signal with your friend, when you all are at a party. A lot of times you have created a signal to let them know, hey, I'm ready to go. Whatever the signal may be. We can all think about, you have created a signal to let them know across the room when you are ready to leave. Well, you may want to, depending on that, loved one that's on the spectrum, their level, create a signal for them they can let you know that they are on the edge of sensory overload, that they may need to take a break. So figure out some kind of signal. If there's, the person can't give you a signal that's not on their cognitive level to talk about it, you need to be able to recognize the signs that they are on, on the edge of, this is too much for me. So it's no different than you create a signal with your friends or your spouse to let them know, rather it be, you hold up your cup in the air and you're like, yes, that's their signal. Let them know you are ready to leave. You want to make sure, depending on the level, that you create a signal or you are aware and you're able to watch for signs that the situation may be too much for them. It could possibly overwhelm them. Even if it didn't last year. Everything changes. We all change. So whatever may not have bothered them last year, it's now a new year, and we want to keep that in mind, that it may be something that is bothersome with them as they celebrate the holidays right now. And so we want to make sure we have a signal for them to let us know what's going on. Now, I've talked about a couple of things. I'm going to backtrack so that, you can possibly, if you have a pen and a piece of paper, to write down. I think I went over 5 tips, maybe 6, of what you can do during the holidays. Right, exactly. She will get up and walk to the door. She's letting you know, I'm ready to go. That's her signal. Now, she's giving you that signal. That's her signal. If you stay and ignore her signal, then whatever happens, do not get upset, because she has given you the signal. I am ready to go. I am standing at the door. Let's go. Now, you can convey to them and say, give me 3 minutes or give me 5 minutes. I will tell you, I always tell people with Kendall, if you say 3 minutes, you need to be ready to go in 3 minutes. You cannot tell her 3 minutes and then you want 7. You're better off shooting past. So if you think what you're going to do, saying goodbyes, is going to take you 5, say you're going to leave in 10 minutes so that they know I acknowledge the fact that you are ready to go. Just give me 10 minutes before, so I can let some people know, and then we can go. So you have acknowledged, they showed you their signal. I need to go. And you let them know, this is how long it's going to take me to do what I need to do before we walk out the door. That's just a simple thing. So it's respecting what they're already giving you. If they're giving you the signal, the signal, acknowledge the signal, even if you need a little more time before you leave. So create a visual. What do I mean by that? The month of December. A lot happens during the month of December. It's not just at home. It's at school as well. So much happens. Create a schedule for December. Print out the month of December. If you have a 12-month calendar, we have a calendar because Kendall likes to see what's going to happen, and she loves to flip from month to month. So having said that, we always have a calendar up. And when she was in school, we would write on, the calendar, whatever the different days were, so she was prepared for them. along with early release days. So that calendar you have, you can put words or you can put pictures, but you want them to see the month of December, the things that are going to change. If they're going to come home early, if they're going to go to a party, if they're going to go to a concert, all of those things you want to put on that month of December calendar that you print out. The next thing is whatever you can keep consistent so that they have a level of predictability. What do I mean by that? Bath time, dinner time, whatever those routines are when they come home from school, even if it's an early release day, whatever the routine is that they normally do when they come home from school, they should still be able to do those same steps. That's going to allow them to know that predictability is there. That predictability is soothing. It lets them know what's going to happen next, what to expect, because so much happens once again in December that's out of our control. We can't change. So areas that we can keep the same, remain consistent. What you can't control, you can't control. But what you can, do your best to keep those things in place. The next thing, I need you to get ready and be ready for any moment that may cause a sensory overload. Going into the stores right now, it's a lot going on in stores that has not been going on before. There's a lot of lights. There's a lot of music. The stores have changed maybe the flow of traffic. These are things that to you may seem small, like that flow of traffic definitely may seem like, what's the big deal? Oh, that's a big deal. If they are used to being able to go up and down an aisle, and now they're saying they only want people to go one way on this aisle, that is huge. So those are things that you want to talk about. You want to make sure you're ready for. If the lights are a problem, keep a pair of shades. Make sure you have the earmuffs. Even if you have never had to have the earmuffs, stay ready for what you know you need to be able to provide to them to help them with their sensory needs when you are out and about. Because remember, a lot has changed right now. A lot of music, a lot of lights, a lot of, layouts, a lot of things have changed. Then the next one, whatever's coming up, you need to discuss the expectations. Not like, oh, don't get in trouble, don't touch this. That's not what I mean when I say discuss the expectation. Let them know. And I know I keep talking about this pajama party because that could be a big thing. They're having a sleepover. You want to talk about the fact that we're going to get in our pajamas as soon as we get there. We're going to stay in our pajamas the whole time. We're not going to sleep in the bed. We're going to make some tents, we're going to make some pallets on the floor. All of those things are important. That's discussing the expectations for the event. And we want to make sure we do that so that person knows what's going to happen before they get there. If you are the host house, you make sure that you have talked about, hey, I got to change the furniture around a little bit and we're going to add some extra tables. If you know those are things that are going to bother your loved one on the spectrum, discuss them. Make sure they are aware of these changes and don't just assume they're going to be okay. So when I say talk about the expectations, it's not the expectations of don't touch anything. It's the expectation of what's going to happen at the event. Now, another thing, going back over food accommodations, if your child has a special diet, they will only eat certain things, or maybe you're following a special diet. And at one point, Kendall was gluten and casein free, and we prepared for that. How did we prepare for that? We made sure we had given the teacher rice ice cream. We would make cupcakes and freeze them. It's no different. So we prepared for the events, and we were able to provide them what they needed to have so that she was able to participate. So you want to keep those things in mind. Food accommodations, be ready to accommodate. Going to an event, make sure, see what the menu is, or make sure, hey, if you got to tuck it in your purse, put it in your purse so your child can eat. But don't just ignore their sensory needs when it comes to their food accommodations. And then once again, that signal, know the signal, be able to recognize the signal, and acknowledge and respect the signal. It is so important that if their signal is, as Tiffany stated, to walk to the door, then understand they're letting you know. If their signal is they start gathering their items, then they're letting you know. Whatever their signal is, respect it and acknowledge it. If you can't talk about a signal with them, know their signs enough, know them well enough to know, hey, I think this is becoming too much for them, and I need to let them know we're going to go pretty soon, so that they are aware that you have realized that the situation is becoming too much for them. And then last but not least, make sure you find some time for yourself. I know I keep saying that, but carve out some time for you to do something you like. And I know for some people, they may say it's easier said than done. I know, let me just say, early on with Kendall, we live in Atlanta. All of my family is in Jacksonville. About 95%, the other, they're in Texas. So it's just us. Now, what did we do early on when we wanted to go out? Let's see. There were moments where if we got an invite to an event, we decided who was going to go. I know sometimes you want to go as a couple. We had to decide which person was going to go. The other thing I can tell you that worked for us and was great, the daycare that Kendall attended, well, one of the daycares, we realized one of the workers was fabulous with Kendall. She was wonderful. Shout out to Mr. Carr, loved her to death. We still communicate. We still are in touch. Mr. Carr was fabulous. So what I did was one day I pulled her to the side and I had a conversation between she and I to say, hey, are you interested in babysitting? We'd love for you to come watch Kendall and Julian. And she and I talked off to the side so the owner wouldn't have any problems with it. And we never talked about anything else beyond that. Once we connected, we didn't involve having the, conversations there at the daycare anymore because I didn't want her to lose her job. So if there's someone that's really good, try to see if you can have that conversation. You never know. It could be a teacher's assistant. Who knows? You never know if you don't ask. So that was one of the things we did. And then there were times where if we just couldn't go and we just really wanted to get away, we would really go and just sit out on our porch and have that porch time. So make sure you find some time, figure out a way, sometimes you got to get a little creative, and a lot of things are possible, but you've got to make sure you're kind of seeking out some different ways to do things. So find some time for yourself, try to attend some holiday event, even if it's just for a short amount of time that you can get dressed and, get fancy and put on that sparkly dress. Hey, Leslie, do that. I remember reading one time where, they said stop saving your clothes for special events. Wear them whenever. It's December. If you have 5 things in your closet that, have glitter on them, guess what? You do not have to wait until somebody invites you to an event. If you want to wear your sequin skirt to work, wear it to work. Of course, if you work at somewhere that there's a uniform, you can't do that. But if that's not the case, then wear it. Do not sit back. If you have, 6 things that sparkle, then wear them. Do not wait for that event. You never know. Life is short. Be you at all times. Believe me, I've worked in the school system, like I told you, for 27 years. And there were many days I went to work in a sequin skirt without a hesitation. So I worked in the school. I wore my skirt just like anyone else would wear their skirt, but it was sequins. I've worn a sequin shirt. I've worn shirts with sequins on them. Whatever the case may be, do not wait. Stop saving those clothes. What are you saving them for? Start wearing them now. Do not wait. Before you know it, it'll be past that time. So if you have a sweater and you have all these holiday sweaters, wear those sweaters starting now. Do not wait until they have sweater day at work. You can wear your sweaters whenever. It's December. Really, if you want to wear them past December, that's your choice, because we should be able to do what we want to do and not worry about things like that. Whatever makes you happy clothes-wise, that's, going to be, in the norm of what's going on. So, but once again, what I was talking about was self-care. So in the self-care, just try to find some time. That means being creative. And like I told you our way of how we had a babysitter for years. I talked to her off to the side. Right. They saving them for relatives that when they die, they're going to fight over them. Tags on a whole bunch of clothes they never wore. No, let it go. Either let it go and give it to somebody else to enjoy, or wear it. That's really what it comes down to. But going back, get creative. Extra is not a bad word. I have no problem being extra, because that's who I am, and it's okay. If people tell, oh my gosh, you're over the top. And, it is what it is. Extra is not a bad thing. So But find you, check around with the people that interact with your loved one on the spectrum. Have the conversation off to the side. And then that's a conversation. Once you establish off to the side, it stays off to the side. You don't bring it up with anybody else. Nobody needs to know. And then that's your sitter. That's basically how that works. We never talked about it. Mr. Carr was our sitter. Sparkle and shine. Yes, yes. Yes, shine bright. Yes. So keep all of that in mind as you are dealing with the December chaos, because it is going to happen. Control what you can control and let go and plan for what you cannot control. So, quick update for some of you are like, hey, because I hate when I hear part of a story with someone with something on social media and then they never come back and really give you some more information about it. So, everybody knows we're on this Journey of a Day program. Let's just say we tried and it was not successful. So, we will try again. It was not successful at all. But it is what it is. All we can do is keep trying to figure out what's going to work. But that's an update. We did try. I think we were there for maybe 5 minutes. So it is what it is, but that's where we are on this Journey of a Day program. No matter how much we plan, and we planned out quite a bit, social stories, all of that stuff, it still is a challenge. So keep in mind, some things may still be a challenge. But if you can prevent them, then that's what we want to do. We want to, think ahead, be forward thinking. So my last thing, make sure your loved ones get a state ID. The same way we make sure that our loved ones at 15 get a learner's permit. We want to make sure that we are getting our baby state IDs. They are just as important. They deserve a state ID. Do not rely on that school ID. They need a state ID. Find out what your state requires. Take them to take a picture to get a state ID, and then let them see how their state ID looks like your driver's license. So find out what your state requires and take care of that. Now, I hope that, these tips will help you all get through this December chaos, because it is all about chaos. It's about a whole lot that's going to happen between school and home and, with your loved ones. It's a lot. But we want to try to be as proactive as we possibly can. And those tips I gave you, try to put those things in place to hopefully prevent, a meltdown from happening. So whatever we can do to try to prevent, that's what the goal is. It's all about trying to prevent. Before we start talking about how to, once they're in that state, to de-escalate. Let's try and prevent it before we even get to that point. That's my thought always. What can we do to prevent it? So have a great week. Don't forget, whatever you have, do not save. For the holiday, it is a holiday season. You can sparkle every day if you want to. And if somebody says something, just tell them, extra is not a bad word. And leave it at that. And keep on stepping. So, have a great one, everyone. Hopefully, you'll be able to share that information with others. And like, share, tag. And if you're watching this in the replay, let me know. If you have a couple of questions trying to figure out your loved one's profile, inbox me. I can give you some information so you can make sure you understand your child's sensory profile a little bit better so you can prepare. But you need to inbox me and let me know. And I will see you all the next time here, as people say in these Facebook streets. So have a great one, everyone. Thank you, everybody that joined me tonight. But make sure we like, share, tag, which all of you always do. So share the information. That's how we become a more inclusive society, is that we share information with others that may not remember or may not know they need it. And have a great one.